Hello, my wonderful friends. Today I want to do the morning message out of gold, frankincense, myrrh, and the spiritual gifts of the Magi. And I wanted to talk a little bit about science before we started. Science is changing all the time. Aristotle said that his idea of gravity, anyway, was that things yearn to be with the earth. And his idea of motion was that things stop moving because they get tired. And of course, then Newton came along 200 years later and disproved all that, and he said that gravity was a mysterious pulling force, and then of course Einstein came along and said it's a pushing force. And so I don't want you to get too caught up into science. Like I said, it changes all the time, but it's a good way to understand some higher truths that have been around forever and always will be. So today I want to talk just a little bit before we get into our book about superposition and space-time continuum. What brought this on was in the book we talk about manifesting and being born again, and science can actually help us to understand that a little better. So let's look at a space-time continuum. So here's a continuum of life, okay? So here's what you'd call birth, the beginning, and this would be, I don't like to use the word death because I don't believe in it, but the end of this time space. And then this is the life here. Now let's look at, this is line right here, let's call this the now line. So let's say here I am on the now line, and here I am pointing at a board talking to my wonderful friends in the camera, and then here's my son here, he's at work. Here's my daughter, she's in Florida surfing. Here's all my wonderful friends I'm talking to all over the globe right now. And so we're all on the same now timeline. Now let's take someone and put them, say, 10 billion light years away on another planet. Okay, if they are standing still, and I'm standing still, according to Einstein's theory, we would still be on the same timeline. Now, if this person started moving away at a very slow pace, say just a couple miles an hour away from the Earth, that would change the now line. It would actually send that now line into the past. And even though here it's very close, as you get further away, it spreads out. So this could be a couple hundred years. So right in his now, looking back, he's seen 200 years before I was even in this timeline. Now, the interesting thing is if he starts moving closer, say 1-2 miles an hour towards the Earth, changing the now line, and it actually puts it into the future a couple hundred years. Okay, and what's exciting about that is that it shows that life is relative to the viewer. So according to this theory, this whole life has taken place. The future is already happened. So which gets me thinking, well, does that mean that there's fate and there's nothing we can do about it? Do our decisions even matter? If somewhere right now, someone many light years away can see past my future? And no, it does matter with your choices, and I'll show you why. I hope you can see all this board and hear me okay. But I drew a bunch of other life continuums, and you choose every night. When you fall asleep, you reset. It makes me think of the Buddha. He taught that every morning you're born again. And it's kind of what takes place here with the life continuums. When you go to sleep at night and reset, whatever you truly believe in your heart is what manifests, like we've learned. So if you believe that you're going to be rich and famous truly in your heart, there's a life continuum there, and you reset that next morning. If you think you're going to be broke and miserable, then you reset and you are that. And there's it's called the multiverse theory, and there's billions of possibilities. It's like a choose your own adventure book that you do every day, whether you realize it or not. And so that's why it's so important to think positive. As Peace Pilgrim said, if you knew how powerful your thoughts are, you would never think a negative thought. And then I know have we discussed the double slit experiment? I think we did in my quantum mechanics video. But what they did was they shot electrons through 2 slits. And so the way it was supposed to act is to leave 2 lines on the backboard. But as they found out, it acted differently. It acted as if it was a wave. And then, so it left lines all over the backboard. And then the thing they couldn't understand was it was actually going through the left slit and not the right slit. But then it was going through the right slit and not the left slit. Then it was going through both slits and it was going through neither slits. And it made no sense. And so they call it superposition. It actually was doing every possible thing it could do, which we've talked about before, the cloud of possibility. So they wanted to see what was really going on. So they put a camera there, and when they did that and they observed with what they thought it was supposed to happen, it did exactly what they thought it was supposed to happen, and it just made the 2 lines, which, as we talked about before, depending on what the observer believes is what the camera picked up. When they moved the camera away, it did the superposition again. That'll help as we get into our book here with understanding magic, because this is a book of the Magi, and the word Magi is magic. Magic came from the word Magi. Okay, now let me reposition and we'll start this again. Okay, I'm back. So now we're going to read out of gold, frankincense, myrrh. And to understand magic, first you have to do it in steps. And the first thing you have to know is, what is your power source? You have to have a source of energy. This is the counsels of the ancient sages. In conformity with the revelation of the religion, the ancient sages, in their primeval wisdom, have said that on reaching the age of 15, every man and woman must know the answer to these questions. Who am I? To whom do I belong? From whence have I come? And whither do I return? From what stock and lineage am I? What is my function and duty on earth? And what is my reward in the world to come? Did I come from the unseen world, or was I always of this world? Do I belong to God or to the devil? Do I belong to the angels or the demons? Do I belong to the good or to the wicked? Am I a man or a demon? How many paths are there to salvation? Wouldn't you love to have known all that by the time you were 15? Are some of you still asking a lot of these questions today? Like, who am I? Who do I belong to? Where have I come from? What is my purpose? And the Magi, you had to know this by the time you were 15. And I think that's beautiful. And we should get back to that. Where does my profit lie? And where my loss? Who is my friend? And who is my enemy? Is there one first principle, or are there 2? From whom is goodness, and from whom evil? From whom is light, and from whom is darkness? From whom is fragrance, and from whom is stench? From whom is order, and from whom is disorder? From whom is mercy, and from whom is pitilessness? Now it is faith that brings out manifestations real as they already are. Let's read that again. It is faith that brings out manifestations real as they already are. Okay, so they're already getting into magic, bringing out magic manifestations. Okay, how do you do that? With faith. What is faith? It's a complete trust. It's a belief in only good. Okay, and then acting as mediator settles the dispute by means of reason, which we've talked about before. You have to have reason to work magic, because you can't fool yourself. It has to be 100% subconscious belief. Okay, and then if you have that reason and the faith, then you bring out the manifestation real as it already is. Okay, so in truth, it already is. It's kind of like we're talking about those different life continuums. There is a life continuum where what you're dreaming of is already taken place in that life, and you step into that, and you still have the same family and friends and life experiences, but a different outcome, a different life. And so it already is. So you just by faith believe it. You have to have reason to believe it. What are some reasons that we've talked about to truly believe on a subconscious level? One I use is I'm a child of God. It's my birthright to be in health. It's my birthright for me and my children to be protected and provided for. I can reason that. I can understand. I can believe that. And that makes magic happen. Praise God. Okay, so this must one know without venturing doubt. No fear. So you can have no doubt and no fear to do magic and miracles. Okay, now they're going to start answering all the questions. Where have I come from? And everything we're just talking about there. I'm going to cut off there, and then we'll pick that up again in the next one. So I'll give you something to look forward to. I love you guys. God bless you. I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you in part 2.